Welcome, everyone, to show 6 of the 24-hour global commute. Over this 24 hours, we are visiting every time zone on the planet and have some amazing guests lined up. I'm Kate Holmes, host of the Innovating Advice podcast, and on this show, I am joined by a good friend of mine and fellow forward-thinking financial planner, Eric Roberge of Beyond Your Hammock. Hey, Eric.
Hey, Kate. This is great.
Yeah, no, it is awesome to have you. And when Adam Owen presented this opportunity to me and said, we're bringing together the global financial planning community, and it's going to be next-gen planners and tons of inspirational stuff, and we're talking about co-hosts, I was thinking, who are some of the most forward-thinking advisors I know? And Eric, you came to mind instantly. So give us a quick overview of what you've built at Beyond Your Hammock, which you started back in 2013.
Sure. Yeah, the Beyond Your Hammock was started back in 2013 as a fee-only advisory firm. So we're helping younger people, specifically people in their 30s and 40s, which is a big jump from the typical advisor. And we're doing a lot of it online. So we're really helping people as a personal trainer for your finances, providing really strong planning structure, but also allowing them to live a little bit today, which is something that's hugely important for younger people.
Yeah, and you were one of the first people we met in person, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. And you're the first people I kept hearing say, it's about using money as a tool to live your best life.
Yeah, I mean, money is here to be used, and it's to be used in a way that allows you to get the most out of life. So we have to design what it is that you want. Usually it's taking those thoughts out of your head and putting it on paper and having you see what you want, because you don't always know, and then using that money to get you there.
Yeah. And that, like you said, we don't always know it. It's stuff that we all have to do ourselves as well, right? As financial planners, we also have to step back and be like, what do I want my life to look like? And you set a great example of that with what you've built at Beyond Your Hammock. And through, I think one of your best qualities is being authentic. So what does that mean to you?
It's being who you feel you are, right? It's just letting that shine through, and not holding back because you think you can't be a certain way, or you can't say a certain thing, or eh, doing something that is not, I don't know how to say it, like it's not something that you would be with your family, right? Like if
Yeah.
you can't be who you are with your family out in public, then you should ask yourself, why is that? And adjust things so that you can come through and shine through and bring your true energy out to the world, because that's what's attractive to you, to people, right? So you want to shine that through.
Yeah. And you do that with your clients as well. I mean, it's so great seeing you and your wife, who's also in your business, and you guys have a podcast and the writing that you do of sharing your own journey of it. Life's a continuation, right? It's the constantly, what do we want next step in our life? And then you share that with all of your listeners, your audience, your clients, and even if it's sometimes a controversial viewpoint or something that isn't, the general advice for people.
Yes, rent versus buy always comes to mind when you say that.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got Chris Budd back there. I can see he's cheering that one. So Eric, besides me asking very nicely, what made you want to be part of the global commute?
Well, it was this really cool opportunity to have a conversation that we have normally with the globe, and the more we can get this conversation buzzing around the planet, the better it's going to be for everybody, because we have a lot of good thoughts. And I say we, meaning like the financial planning community, a lot of good thoughts of ways to help people better manage their money. And if we can get everybody talking about that, then it's going to make our jobs a lot easier. So any chance I can get to have this kind of conversation this globally, I'm in.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you for being here and for bringing your energy. It's 5:30 in the morning for me, so it's good to be feeding off that where it's a little bit later in the day. And for those people that want to learn more about Eric's story and what a fantastic business he's built at Beyond Your Hammock, he's actually coming up on next Tuesday's episode 43 of the Innovating Advice podcast. So you can check that out. So Eric, we'll hear from you in just a second, but I wanted to make sure we touched on the fact that throughout this 24-hour global commute, we are raising money for a lot of great charities. So in the US for Quad A, which is the Association of African American Financial Advisors, and Color of Change to support the Black Lives Matter movement here in the US. And in the UK, the team there is raising money for two great charities in CF Warriors, which helps kids overcome cystic fibrosis, and the Stroke Association. So we're going to have more about all of that later on in the show. But Eric, what do we have coming up on this show?
Well, I think I'm going to kick it over to Adam first off, right?
Hello, Eric. Yes. Hi. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, really well. Thank you. Great to see you. And thank you so much for joining the show. So yeah, I think actually we were going to just take a minute just to introduce this wild concept to our American viewers now, because it's our first time in America. And this really came about from just an idea that we had at the beginning of UK lockdown. So we started in UK lockdown in March, and I was just reminded of the time in the 1990s when I first went self-employed, and one of the great things was to have structure. So we thought, actually, wouldn't it be nice to put together something that gave everybody in the morning something to build a structure around, and the morning commute was born. And then after that, it was just a case of, well, what can we do with it next? And so that's how we came about thinking, well, we could take this global. We could actually, everybody has an 8:30 in the morning, so we could do 8:30 in the morning in every time zone. And once you're doing 24 hours, then we think, well, actually, that's a bit of a challenge. So let's add a charity link in. So thank you to everybody who's watching right now and everyone who's going to watch over the rest of the 24 hours. And have a great show.
Thanks, Adam. So in this show, we have an interview with Lazetta Rainey Braxton, who many of our audience will know from her work with as a chair of Quad A. We have a financial well-being thought of the day with Chris Budd of the Innovative Initiative. Wow, it is not that early here, and I can't say that word.
I've done
Initiative
it,
for
don't worry.
Financial Well-being in the UK, and we will be chatting about how financial planning is evolving here in the US. But first, we have the news with CityWire RIA, and on this show is brought to us by Alex Rosenberg.
Derek, how are you? So yeah, gonna tell you a little bit about what's going on here. So here from CityWire RIA, gonna be hearing hits from me and some of our reporters through the day. A little bit of markets. S&P futures about 1%, 100% higher. That would be nice. 1% higher, and oil futures are down about 1%. Interesting legal soap opera over the weekend that we got. So I'm going to take you back about 3 years ago when SEC Chair Jay Clayton, who's very close to Trump, plays golf with the president, according to the New York Times, mentioned he wanted to go to New York, back to Manhattan, where he had been serving in private practice, and also wanted to get some prosecution under his belt. So let's go forward to Friday, where the Attorney General said that the current U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, a man named Jeffrey Berman, had resigned. Jeffrey Berman said, "I have not resigned, and I have no intention of resigning." So it's kind of an interesting back and forth there already. What happened on Saturday was Barr said, actually, you will now be fired. And by Saturday night, Berman agreed to step aside. And since his number two was taking the role, a woman named Audrey Strauss. Now, it looks like Jay Clayton, the current SEC chairman, will not, in fact, get the job because he's running into some issues in the Senate where Chuck Schumer, who, as a senator from New York, kind of has the ability to stop a judicial nominee for his state. Schumer tweeted, "Jay Clayton can allow himself to be used in the brazen Trump Barr scheme to interfere in investigations by the U.S. Attorney for Southern District of New York, or he can stand up to this corruption and withdraw his name from consideration and save his own reputation from overnight ruin." So kind of hearing the Democratic perspective there on what's happened, which is that Berman had been investigating certain Trump associates, including Rudy Giuliani. They believe it's a ploy to stop him from doing these investigations. But for us in the financial world, it's kind of interesting because SEC chairman and U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, two really the most important regulatory positions. If you've seen the show Billions, that's the job that Chuck Rhodes does as U.S. Attorney for the Southern District. That was Preet Bharara's job. That was Elliot Spitzer's job before him. So, meanwhile, SEC chairman, obviously, very important role, also with a lot of independence and authority. So, just interesting for us to watch these two positions kind of played off directly against each other, two of the most important regulatory positions in the financial world. And we'll kind of see how it plays out here and who ends up taking that job at the SEC and also in the Southern District in Manhattan. With that, I'll send it back to you, Eric.
Thanks, Alex. Quite an interesting story going on behind the scenes over there. Kate, what do we have next?
So next up, we have got Chris Budd, who is the host of the Financial Wellbeing Podcast with his Financial Wellbeing Thought for the Day. Chris, what do you have for this show?
Excuse me. Hi, Kate. And hello, America. So today, this show, I'm going to give you a little tip about what financial plans should be aiming to achieve. So the Initiative for Financial Wellbeing is a new institute in the UK, not for profit, and it promotes the idea of money for happiness. You said earlier on, money is a tool. So if it's a tool to engender happiness, how do we do that? There's some great research already out there, but we're going to be doing more research. And this one I got from Professor Tim Kasser, who very sadly just discovered actually retired from Knox University. And he talks about the importance of motivations. Now, I've never been a great fan of goals in financial planning because goals are finite. Once you achieve a goal, then what happens next? And I much prefer the idea of motivations. And when I was talking to him about this on our Financial Wellbeing podcast, he was talking about there's two different types of motivations. So we have intrinsic motivations and extrinsic motivations. And extrinsic motivation is something you do for other people, to impress somebody maybe, or to get approval for something. And intrinsic motivation doesn't really have any reason for doing it. You just do it because you want to, for yourself. And what's interesting about this is that if you achieve an extrinsic motivation, it doesn't make any difference to your well-being. Whereas if you achieve an intrinsic motivation, it does increase your well-being. But, and here's the kicker, if you don't achieve it, it reduces your well-being. And behavioral finance theory tells us about loss aversion that your reduction in well-being actually will be worse. So what our financial plans should be doing is it should be aiming for achievable intrinsic motivations. So that's what your financial plan should be aimed at. That's today's financial well-being tip.
Oh, thanks, Chris. I mean, that is certainly close to my heart. Talking to clients about their true goals and what motivates them, you learn a lot about what it is for them. And sometimes the things that they think they want, those extrinsic motivations, are not actually what's driving them, and certainly it's not what's motivating them. So it's a great point. Thanks for sharing that. Now we have the next step of the interview here, and it's going to be, well, it is the interview with Lazetta Rainey Braxton. Lazetta, welcome to the show. Thanks for being on.
Oh, thank you. I feel international today.
By definition, you are. It's quite a resume you have there. Before we go on to what's currently going on for you, tell us a little bit about how you got here along the way.
Absolutely. So I'll make this short and do it by decades. So I'm a Gen Xer, confession. They're the overlooked generation, but I think the most important. I got the microphone, so I can say that. So I always had a curiosity about personal finance. My parents, high school sweethearts, married right out of high school, and had me, their firstborn. And it was a struggle. It was a struggle financially for them to take care of our family. They worked hard. My dad, construction worker, my mom, a factory worker. So I really wanted to know how we could live comfortably without the stress of debt. So my lifelong journey has been understanding personal finance and how it could help realize your goals. And I know Chris said he didn't like goals. And I love that new perspective, so I have to chew on that a little bit. So right now, I'll just say in terms of, our family lifelong goals. So in my 20s, I majored in finance, didn't know about financial planning. I ended up getting my MBA in finance once again, didn't know about financial planning. And then my early 30s, I discovered this great career of financial planning by actually meeting a CFP, a certified financial planner named Melissa Hamill. And my life just changed at that moment. I ended up getting my CFP designation in my early 20s and also, early 30s, and worked on my business, a fee-only financial planning business called Financial Fountains that I founded in 2008. Fast forward to now in my 40s, I've merged my practice with Bianca Dorsonville. The name of our firm is 2050 Wealth Partners, and we have designed 2050 thinking that that's when the U.S. will be this beautiful mosaic, and we want wealth to transfer along with the changing demographics. So that's, in a nutshell, how I got where I am today as the co-owner, founder of 2050 Wealth Partners, and also along the way, very involved in the financial services industry with organizations that I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's a really cool name. I knew the name of your firm, but I never realized what the connection was. And it certainly takes, that's a big, speaking of goals, that's a big goal to hit. So how are you going about doing that? Like, what are some of the projects that you're working on currently in your business?
Yeah, so one of the wonderful things, and Bianca and I feel like we were kind of ahead of the curve, along with you, Eric. I know that you mentioned this as well. We founded our practice totally virtual. We met each other 6 years ago, became really good friends, mastermind together, and we're like, well, why not join forces? And we did, in a force that we feel like we are as two women of color, and I specifically identify as Black American, and Bianca has both Black and Latinx heritage. So we're pretty excited that one, we're virtual. Two, we really serve people who feel like they were overlooked or underserved by Wall Street. Does that mean necessarily people of color? No. Actually, our clientele is pretty diverse as well, too. We don't have any minimums. We operate on retainers. So access to financial planning is extremely important to us and something that we pride ourselves on by the way that we're structured. And that includes being virtual and also having a retainer where there's no minimums and fee only to reduce any conflict of interest.
So you mentioned that your clientele right now is diverse.
Very diverse.
So could you tell us a little bit more about 2050 Wealth Partners and your belief that financial planning is truly for everyone? Like what exactly does that mean to you?
Yeah, so we look at 4 segments. We have thriving professionals, business owners, really looking at those who are 5 or less, first generation wealth, and then sandwich generation protectors. So let me talk about the last 2, because the first 2, that pretty covers leveraging human capital, whether you're working for someone else or working for yourself. And then the last 2 are very important as well, too. First generation wealth. I mean, we know that wealth is not always easily transferred. Sometimes, they say it kind of disappears in 3 generations. So for first gen wealth, there's a lot of pressure to make it, if you will, and be that role model for your family. The sandwich generation wealth protectors, that's kind of where I find myself, where there's 2 generations ahead of me, and that's the silent generation and the baby boomers, and 2 generations behind me, millennials, and actually 3, now Gen Z and Gen Alpha, where you're trying to protect your own wealth, and while you're caring for the older generation and the younger generation, making sure that wealth is stabilized as well too. So those are the 4 segments that we serve, and what's the common thread, once again, is really making the most of what they have through financial planning, for which we're teaching them that financial planning is not just for the 1%, that everyone deserves access to financial planning.
Yeah, and that's really great too, because if people see that other people that they know are getting financial planning, or that people like you are providing this type of service to more than what traditionally financial planning was all about, which I'm a true believer that financial planning 20 years ago is not what financial planning is today, is not what financial planning is going to be in 20 years from now. So we have to keep expanding that point of view more and more and more. And you don't even just do it through your clients, right? You're involved with other parts of the industry. So tell us about your work with the Association of African American Financial Advisors.
Absolutely. And so 10 years ago, as a solopreneur, I wanted to know where were all my other colleagues. I would go to conferences. I'd be one of, a handful, even with my prior workplaces, wasn't a lot of people of color. And so I wanted to really, one, know where my community, my tribe could be found. And then two, I also had a very unfortunate situation, actually several unfortunate situations, but one impacted me the most, where there was a racial slur that was used by a potential client, and there was no recourse for that. So as a part of my own healing, I decided to, and this is all volunteerism, to start writing about my situation. And that was pretty later in life, but writing more about the industry, recognizing the importance and impact of African Americans or Blacks in financial services. So I got very involved with the Financial Planning Association, was chair of their diversity program. I got very involved with the CFP board with their WIN Council Women Initiative, as well as now their Center for Financial Planning, DAG, involved with NAPA. And so I realized that in these larger organizations, that there was another organization that was based in DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area, called the Association of African American Financial Advisors. And once I discovered, I'm like, this is my tribe, but it was local. And I'm like, everyone should really know about this organization. So I was invited to serve as president, member for like a month. But I took it on because it was part of my passion, and I was having conversations throughout the industry. So why not have a collaborative approach to it? So one of my first initiatives was to have a national conference, which we did as a pre-con to the FPA Associations Conference in 2015. Yes, we were in Boston that year. And I had no idea what sponsors or partners would be a part of this, just brand new. So we were able to have a very successful day and a half. And now here we are, 5-6 years later. We're a national organization. We have our foundation as well too. And so with Quad A, the idea is just advancing Blacks advisors in financial services, giving us a platform to show our expertise, to build community, and feel valued, and also to help with cultural competency. With the changing demographics, this is a skill set that all financial planners should have. And so we want to be on the forefront, and are on the forefront of those conversations. So with our membership side, that's where, we have the community, the conferences, working with partners, with not only attracting talent, but also retaining talent. That is so important. And then on the foundation, what we're looking to do and have been doing is working with historically Black colleges and universities that have CFP programs, to make sure that the faculty have support, as well as the students as well. So it's been a great journey. It's been a decade, and it's time for real change now.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a better time for this association to be more exposed, right? I mean, 2015. I mean, I had not heard of the Quad A in 2015, and the fact that it's doing such great work, people need to know about this stuff. So thank you for continuing to push that and make sure that everybody does understand, and you can certainly support more and more people that way.
Yes, and so what's fascinating about it, and this is what I've been saying, and I need to say it louder to the industry, is that these organizations, ours specifically, need resources. I've been a part of the larger organization that gets a lot of the funding. And like I mentioned, it's been all volunteers. So I've been running my business. The volunteers on the board have been running their business by taking this organization, Quad A, nationally, on a shoestring budget. And we've proven ourselves, we've done the work. And so now we need the investment from the industry. We've poured in our time, and that's a major currency. And now we need institutions to step up and be a part of the solution. And that includes financial resources as well.
Yes, 100% agree with that. Well, it's definitely worth talking about the foundation and the scholarship program too. So tell us what you can about that.
Absolutely. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of the Quad A, and particularly the foundation for making this a center point, or one of many organizations that you're supporting with this initiative here. LeCount Davis is the first African-American CFP. He is the one that founded Quad A and the foundation. And so we decided to name the scholarship the LeCount and Jewel Davis, to include his wife as well too, in the honoring of their legacy for the industry. So we're starting small because we're volunteers, and there are only a few handful of HBCUs, including Delaware State, Prairie View. You have in North Carolina A&T, you have Clark Atlanta, and we want to expand that number of programs. And we also want to include Blacks or those who identify as Blacks within PWIs, predominantly white institutions as well. But you have to start with small beginnings. So our scholarship awards 2 students a year for tuition and the ability to go to Quad A's conference, where they are exposed to major firms, excellent content, and the industry as well too. So it's a small beginning, significant beginning, and we're looking forward to expanding where we have a community base for them to circulate more dollars to make sure the programs are stable. Want to see endowments as well too for these schools, as well as support the research of the faculty members. It takes a very holistic approach, and we're committed to doing that.
Yeah, and thank you for doing that as well. I mean, getting the word out about that scholarship and the program, and just all of what you're doing with that is huge. Yeah, and speaking of huge, this question is so broad based. So take it where you think it should go. But what are your thoughts on the Black Lives Matters movement, and how do we create a better society, whether it's generally or in the financial planning world, or whatever it is that you want to share about that?
So one with BLM, Black Lives Matter, there's a lot of debate about Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter. And I want to say, and this is, when you're talking about authenticity, I want to bring my full self, and that includes the element of spirituality as well too. So there's, this parable about the lost sheep, where Jesus is talking about, the one missing sheep out of the 99. And that's kind of what I want to say about Black Lives Matter. It's not that we're saying all lives matter. You have to focus sometimes on the one that is missing. And in our population has been, to be honest with you, over 400 years here, has really been as a part of the DNA, the free labor. And so while people say, oh, that's far ago, it's just emancipation for our country just happened 155 years ago, not that long ago. And I can say, even from my own experiences, where I haven't been protected as a person of color, I haven't been valued, and that's why I started my own firm. So I encourage people to really understand the history. Some of that has been sanitized. A lot of people are saying now, I didn't know. Well, it's important for you to know and to listen, because this is our history, not just our certain culture's history as well too. So what I'm saying to the industry is, it is a personal thing. People want to compartmentalize, but you can't. You bring your full self to where you work, all your ideas or your values and belief, and they show up. So maybe each person, particularly those in influence as well too, to audit your stance on what you view about humanity and human capital, because human capital translates to financial capital. And what is your role in making sure that there are equitable chances for people to be compensated fairly for what they bring to the table, for opportunities as well too, and get out of that comfort zone. It's too easy to stay in your comfort zone. So if you're comfortable, then something's wrong, because this is a time to not be comfortable for the advancement of all. I just think about the firm. If I stayed with them and the value that I could have brought, that I'm bringing on my own. Not oftentimes everybody wants to be on their own or capable of being an entrepreneur. So don't miss out on great opportunities just because you're stuck on some paradigms that you inherited or you haven't really researched that well. And that includes the racial literacy that often is just as difficult as the financial literacy, where you don't know, but you need to know to make sure that there's full value out of the experience throughout your journey.
Yeah, I mean, it really is that inquiry, right? It's always be learning something new, and ask the question, what don't I know about any topic, but what don't I know about Black Lives Matter right now? And what might my thoughts, what might I just be inherently thinking is a fact when it's not, right? And I think that's really, really important for everybody to do. You know, doesn't even matter how strongly you feel about one thing or another. It's just explore, 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 and educate, educate, educate. So thanks for sharing that about BLM as well. I think we are wrapping up on the top of the hour here. So thank you very much, Lazetta. It was an honor talking to you today and interviewing you and hearing what you're doing with your business and with just your ability to share and push the line forward, because we all want to see it go well beyond where it is today.
Thank you. And for those who know me, particularly between Quad A and the foundation, I always say onward and upward. So it's exciting to be a part of this conversation, and just thank you all for making it a center of what you're doing in the work to advance financial planning, because one clear element of financial planning is human capital. We all want to be valued and be paid for what we bring for the greater good. And the more opportunities there are to share, and there are plenty of them, the more that we can see the impact across the world.
Well, I am looking forward to watching you do what you do best and connecting with you again soon.
Great. Thank you.
All right, Kate, what do we have coming up next?
Well, I just wanted to also echo that, Lazetta. Thank you so much. So great seeing you. Look forward to when we can get together in person, but inspiring as always. The work that you're doing is incredible. And as Eric said, just pushing that line forward. Thank you for all of it and for being here with us today. And, you know, as we think about raising money for great organizations, we're going to cross over to the UK for a minute and check in with our Charity Challenge heroes. And right now we'll start with James Mousley, who's coming to the end of his epic tire flipping challenge. And he's about to hand it over to Steve Martin, who's doing an Ironman cycling challenge of 112 miles. Well, let's start with James. You must be exhausted.
Hi, Kate. Hi, Eric. Welcome to the UK. Good morning, America. Wow, that was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. 3.5 hours tire flipping, an hour and a half running. And that was tough. But I'm still here, still alive, still smiling, still raising money for the CF Warriors charity. The great work they're doing with children with CF and all of those with CF. So very much enjoyed myself. Now for a bit of food and rest. And on to Steve, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can see that sweat dripping. For those that don't know or might be wondering, can you don't have to do a demonstration, but show us or tell us, what is a tire flipping challenge?
So you see this tire here, it's a 70 kilo tractor tire. I've just moved to the countryside, so I thought I'd integrate with the community and start flipping tires. Yeah, you just literally flip it from side to side, as long as you can keep going. I stupidly did something similar last year with Steve, actually, for the charity. I thought, well, I did quite well at that event, so why not make it a full morning session on a tire? But yeah, I reckon the back, the knees, and the quads are going to be in pain tomorrow.
Well, hopefully you can get out and get a massage. I don't know if those are open yet, but definitely get some good rest. Incredible work that you're doing. Like I said, raising money for CF Warriors. We've got a bit of a pun here from Chris Budd saying you must be flipping tired, and that has got to be true.
Thank you very much, Kate. Pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks. Go enjoy enjoy a shower and some well-deserved food there, James. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care, guys.
Yeah,
James.
Absolutely. Now let's jump over to Steve Martin. You are about to start your Ironman cycling challenge.
Yeah, I'm really not looking forward to it at all. I've done some silly challenges with James before, and that's the tiredest I've ever seen him look. So yeah, I'm not massively excited about this. So anyway, you've got 5 hours for me to moan at you about it, so we'll see how we go.
No, it'll be great to see. So what's keeping you going? Because doing that much cycling indoors with no scenery change, do you got some favorite music you're listening to?
I do, actually. I'm part of a tri club, so my first hour, I'm going to watch an old triathlon club spin class. And then from that point onwards, I think Fatboy Slim will be my my spinning buddy and his various lockdown mixes. So that's, I'm relying on that to have a kind of a high enough cadence to try and connect the speed of the music to the ever slowing legs and try and see if we can synchronize the two things. So that's it. But yeah, there's not a lot exciting I can tell you about it. I'm going to be here for a while.
All right. Well, we will check in with you again in the next episode then. Keep up that energy and get that music going soon when you need it. Thanks, Steve.
We will do. Thanks, guys. See you later.
All right. Ciao. And now let's check in with Gretchen Betts, who has been working through her extreme crafting challenge. Gretchen, you've been at it for a while.
So my charity challenge is to make 24 art or craft things in 24 hours. So I'll be here for the whole show. I'm really excited to be, I guess now eventually moving time zones and going to different places. So that's quite cool. I've been doing various things. I'm on Twitter showing what I'm doing, but this time I've been I'm upcycling some candle holders. So I'm painting onto these and the candle goes in there. So that's what I've been doing this session. I'm doing various different crafts, hopefully showing different skills as it goes, and look forward to speaking to you next time as well.
Yes, fantastic. And Gretchen, are you raising money for CF Warriors or the Stroke Association?
Yeah, so I mean, really what we're doing is we're all just aiming, I think, like with both of the charities, but I've listened to the guy from Josh from CF Warriors this morning, who was amazing, and the Stroke Association as well. So anyone who wants to sponsor would be quite happy for it to be for either of those charities. It's really exciting that we've got so much so far, but keep putting those pounds on. That would be great.
Yes. And Gretchen, I have to ask, so you are also a financial planner. Do you at all specialize in working with people that are into crafting, or do you integrate that into your financial planning business?
I've been definitely working more on my craft in lockdown because of well-being and just trying to keep sane. But yeah, what I find is that it's always a good icebreaker to talk about, having a degree in something unrelated to financial planning. It's the amazing amount of people who want to talk, about things like that, who maybe do art or painting as their downtime hobby. So I have lots of conversations about things like that with my clients. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, we'll check in with you in the next episode. I love your painting those details and doing it that small. That's not something I think I have the skill or potentially the patience to do, but those looked beautiful. Very fun.
Thank you.
And lastly, in our UK charity challenges, let's check in with Alastair Walker, who is doing a 24-hour Minecrafting challenge to build a virtual conference venue. How wild is that?
Hello. Yes, we're getting there. I don't know if you can see the screen, but I'm stood on the roof of the venue at the moment.
Okay, and so what's going to be up on the roof? Is that going to be a nice bar lounge area?
Oh no! Now you said that, we're going to have to do it. So we're not sure if it looks a little bit churchy, but in the UK, Next Gen Planners does have the reputation of being a little bit of a cult. So we feel like that might work to our favour anyway.
That's incredible. So can you share for all of the US listeners just tuning in sort of what this challenge is about and why you're undertaking this 24-hour Minecrafting challenge?
So we've in the Next Gen Morning Commute, people have been sharing their kind of hobbies and the things they do really and have done in lockdown to keep themselves sane. So for Gretchen, it's crafting, and for me and Clem, it's Minecrafting or gaming in general. And we thought Minecraft was nice because it's accessible. Most people have heard of it. It's productive and constructive. There's no shooting of people. You do have to bash the odd zombie over the head with a sword, but there's no real, there's no taking much down. It's all about building things up. So we said, yeah, we'll. And as soon as we don't have a physical conference venue, we thought, why not build one virtually? So that's what we're doing. As you can see, if we just give you a quick tour of what we look like so far, we've got the pews, the seats. We're not cool. And we got the red carpet for the speakers. We're starting on a stage. Oh, we've got the mascot, the cat, here as well, of course. But yeah, we've got the stage, and then we're going to have a green room in the back as well, of course, for all the speakers.
How fun. That's fantastic. Well, I look forward to seeing how it continues to build out through the shows. So we'll be checking back in with you each show. So thanks for what you're building there.
Thank you very much.
You know, we're really grateful for the support that people have shown so far, but we are looking to raise as much as we can for chosen charities. And Lazetta really hit it home, you know, talking about how much is often done on a shoestring budget, all of these great organizations that really are making a difference in the world.
Wasn't expecting that.
So please click on the links that we have put in the chat to donate.
Yeah.
And Eric, what do we have next on the show?
I'm glad I was listening out.
Well, our next show is at 14:30 UK time, and we'll be chatting to Carrie List, who is at the forefront of financial planning in Canada. And Chris Budd will be telling us about the formation of the Initiative for Financial Wellbeing coming up too.
Awesome. Eric, truly, thank you so much for joining us today and being part of the 24-hour global commute. Lazetta, thank you for joining us as well. Chris, for your thought of the day, to all of the charity challengers. And I will be back in, I think we're about 20 minutes now for the next show, where I will be joined by our regular UK host, Clements Chatelain. So bye for now.